It's been so long. So good to see you again. Well, not good, really. Don't say anything. Mommy knows. You thought you could just walk right in here, didn't you? As if nothing ever happened. What a joke. Well, they're all dead, all of them. And you did that. Tried to live knowing that for whatever brief time you're still alive. But hey, that's just a theory, right? A theory. A theory. A theory.
Hello, Internet! Welcome to Game Theory, the show that's been popular for 11 years but still hasn't landed a movie deal. Don't know why I felt like mentioning it here. On a completely unrelated note, a few weeks ago we finally saw the release of Poppy Playtime Chapter 2, Fly in a Web. And this thing was longer than a tech demo, so hey, big wins over Part 1. But no, the team wasn't content to stop there. Poppy Playtime's newest chapter went above and beyond, requiring players to master not just one, but 2 different gameplay styles. Whack-a-mole and Simon Says.
Blue! Yellow! Violet! Every game is required to have a Simon Says segment for some reason.
I'm of course being facetious about the whole thing. This new chapter actually offered a lot of awesome stuff. Cool puzzles, thrilling chases, and an oversized plush toy failing to pull a lever. The animation is so adorable. I could sit here and watch that all day. Oh, and there are also collectible trophies now. Really challenging collectible trophies that'll push you to the limits of your gamer senses.
Any secret trophies or anything that we see up here?
Any secret trophies? Secret trophies? Secret trophies?
But we all know why we're really here. It's not for the gameplay innovation or the collectibles. It's for the hidden notes and cryptic clues. Ladies and gentlemen, we have ourselves some lore to decipher. And spoiler alert, Poppy isn't who we thought she was. First, here's what you need to know to understand today's theory. Poppy Playtime Chapter 1 focused on us, the player, returning to an abandoned toy factory in order to save some employees that went missing there 10 years ago. We're told via a mysterious note that we have to find the flower. Several puzzles and one giant Muppet chase later, we find the flower in the form of a giant wall mural of a poppy. Inside is a replica of a house and a doll named Poppy Playtime, locked away inside of a glass case. And of course, we set her free without a second thought because players in video games have never seen a horror movie before. Anyway, Chapter 2 picks up immediately afterward. Poppy agrees to help us activate a train that'll help us get out of the factory. So much for wanting to help save those missing employees, but hey, if a creepy talking doll starts offering me ways to not be around the creepy talking doll, I'm gonna take that offer. But of course, things are never quite that easy. Mommy Longlegs, a giant stretchy toy spider, takes Poppy hostage and forces us to play 3 minigames in her game station in order to unlock each part of the train's code. Eventually, we break out of our games, which causes her to go complete sicko mode and chase us through a narrow escape sequence. Where have I seen something like that before? In the end, she gets caught in a grinder and her remains are dragged away by a mysterious claw. We rescue Poppy, get on the train, but surprise, surprise, she betrays us, crashing the train and forcing us even deeper into the factory. So those are the highlights from the chapter, but we're still left with a lot of overarching questions. Who are we? Where are these missing employees we're so concerned about? What's the true nature of the toys? And who's secretly pulling the strings behind all of this? Well, I think I have the answers to each and every one of those questions, and the last one is probably the best place to start. As I just talked about, after defeating Mommy, we see her remains get dragged away by a mysterious claw. No, not Burn Trap's claw, but also, yeah, kind of Burn Trap's claw. You see, the hand we see pull Mommy away is very different from all the other designs that we've encountered in the game so far. Most of the toys that we fight are brightly colored, made of plastic or fur, and, you know, look like actual toys. This thing, though, is dark, mechanical, and could poke your eye out. It's like an erector set on steroids. And that's not all. If you zoom in and enhance the image of the claw, you can actually make out that there's organic material mixed in there. Bones and maybe even some veins mixed in with the metallic parts. So yeah, the comparison to Spring Trap, Burn Trap, call them whatever you want, it isn't that much of a joke. But what is this biomechanic hybrid doing within the context of Poppy? Well, back in Chapter 1, we discovered the final VHS tape which cataloged the results of experiment 1006, nicknamed the Prototype.
Final log. In relation. Experiment 1006. The prototype. Coordination and cooperation is evidently within his skill set, as well as the skill set of all other experiments of his type.
This, along with a death screen that said Experiment 1006 isn't he wonderful, led us to believe in a previous theory that our big blue boy Huggy Wuggy was the prototype, since, you know, he was kind of the only character that we met in Chapter 1, Occam's razor and all that. However, take a look at the hand on the TV screen that we see during that VHS recording. Look familiar? We see that hand appear again in yet another VHS tape in Chapter 2.
Log code 08502 in relation. Experiment 1006. The prototype. The prototype seems to possess an unprecedented level of intelligence, beyond that of all other test subjects, as well as an alarming willingness to commit violence. Experiment 1170, Huggy Wuggy, remains the optimal outcome due to his sufficient intelligence paired with maximum obedience.
Obviously, this outright tells us that Huggy isn't Experiment 1006, and that it's instead the owner of this mysterious claw. So that's what the prototype is, but what makes it so special? Well, during that same VHS tape, we also hear how the prototype takes apart an alarm clock and uses it to make a laser pointer. In short, it's smart and it's able to repurpose things, which would explain Mommy's concern in this moment.
What have you done? It'll make me part of you!
She's gonna be reused and repurposed by this entity in order to help the monster escape. Kinda makes you wonder if the veins and bones were how this creature was originally designed, or maybe that's what happened to all the other missing employees. Their bodies were added to the machine. It's interesting, in our last theory we predicted that Mommy Longlegs would be adding the bodies of dead toys to herself in order to become stronger. We were right about the concept, just looks like we were wrong about who it applied to. As for how this thing is gonna wind up looking, anyone remember Sid from Toy Story 1? Sounds like we might have found one of his creations. So right now it looks like the prototype 1006 is gonna be our overarching villain for the franchise, taking pieces and parts of the other toys, and maybe even pieces and parts of other people to grow stronger. That being said, one toy that doesn't appear to have been added to the prototype yet is Huggy Wuggy. He may not have appeared explicitly in this chapter, but hints of him are hidden around. When you go into the chapter's water treatment room, if you look carefully, you can see some blue fur that's scattered around the pipes alongside trails of blood. This appears to be the room that Huggy fell through at the end of the last chapter, and would seem to imply that Huggy picked himself up and went full-on sus mode by venting away, waiting to return until a future chapter. Which honestly makes sense. He can't die yet, he's basically the mascot of the franchise. Who even cares about Poppy at this point? I mean, me. I do because lore, but I feel like I'm definitely in the minority on that one. Speaking of Poppy, let's talk about her, shall we? I mean, it is her name on the title screen after all. This isn't Kissy Missy Playtime or Cat Bee Playtime, you know? Well, mere hours after Chapter 2 came out, the fan community did what the fan community gonna do. They dug into the game files. And by doing so, they discovered an early build of this chapter hidden away. And while the game itself is still basically the same, the end is where things get real interesting. Normally, you get on the train and Poppy gives you this sinister speech about how you're not allowed to leave. She betrays us and sends us hurtling deeper into the factory for reasons that are kept pretty darn vague.
Terrible things have happened, but I know that whatever I need you to do, you're capable.
However, in the cut version of this monologue, we actually get a bit more detail on her motivations.
You have so much potential. I know you came to find the ones who had disappeared all those years ago, but they're gone. They've been gone for a long time. Terrible things have happened, and I am the cause. Being able to exist as a doll, it has killed so many people.
Now, interpreting cut content is always going to be a tricky science. Do you use it? Do you not? How do you use it? Here, I'm only pointing it out because this seems to confirm one of our original theories, that Poppy is the reason all of this is happening. She literally says that because she was able to exist as a doll, people died, which tells us two things. One, that she's been around since the very beginning. She knows about the experimentation that's being done on humans. She's witnessed it all.
I was the first. I have seen everything.
Yes, FNAF, we hear you. You're very special. You did it first. Secondly, though, it seems to tell us that Poppy isn't who we originally thought. Loyal theorists will remember that last time we predicted that former employee Stella Graber was the person whose body and spirit were used to build Poppy. In Chapter 1, we found a VHS tape talking about her desire to stay young and her love of children, which all but seemed to scream, "Make me into an undying doll monster." However, after the clues seeded out in this chapter, we know for a fact that she's no longer a candidate. When we first enter the game station, we're greeted by Stella's voice.
Hi kids, welcome to the game station. I'm Stella, and we've got 3 super duper fun games to play.
Her name also appears on the bottom of a document outlining how to test children using the various game station modules. Quote, give all reports to Ms. Stella Graber to sort through. So Stella was clearly involved with whatever experimentation was going on at Playtime Co. And since these experiments were started because the living doll Poppy existed in the first place, Stella can't be Poppy. In that same document, we also see references to Mommy Longlegs. Now, if you look closely at the Mommy Longlegs commercial that plays at the top of the chapter, you can see that it's dated 1991. Poppy was meant to be the first living toy developed back in 1950. Therefore, if Stella was alive around the time of Mommy Longlegs, then she couldn't possibly be inside Poppy. So if Poppy isn't Stella, then who is she? Well, early in chapter 2, we visit Elliot Ludwig's office, founder of Playtime Co. It's here that we learn that he experienced a tragic family loss sometime in the 1960s.
In the 1960s, an unfortunate family death had pushed Ludwig down to his lowest.
This loss is what spurred him to work harder and build an empire around his toys. Now, it's not actually clear who this family member was. You would suspect his kid, right? Kid dies or is dying and he finds a way to make her into a living toy. Yeah, I am broken. I will put you back together. Thank you, FNAF. Go and do something else with your life. Make your lore more sensible. Stop trying to butt into other people's narratives, okay? Other people's very similar narratives. Anyway, as I was saying, you would suspect that he's doing this for his kid, right? And that's who Poppy is. It's his daughter. But there's a wrinkle to that, and it's not coming from the game, but rather the game's website. You see, we know via a newspaper article hidden on the About section of Playtime Company's merch website that Elliot's wife divorced him in 1930. This means that if a child came from that relationship, that biological son or daughter would have been in their 20s or 30s when Poppy was created. It seems a bit old, to be honest. The loss could have been a grandchild. That's definitely a possibility. But for me, I think the most likely option was that it was an adopted daughter. In chapter 1, we see a lot of posters hanging on the walls talking about Playtime Co.'s adoption initiative. What if that program was initially started because Elliot had an adopted child himself, and he wanted to bring that joy to other families, thereby modeling it in those Playtime Company values. And then, when his daughter dies or is suffering, he, has to find a way to put her back together. So his adopted child dies tragically, and he tries something to revive her, probably by fusing her with Poppy. And it works. Something he does works. She's in the doll, but he's not exactly sure what he did. Might I suggest trying Remnant or Agony? Sorry, now I'm just going out of my way to do it. Anyway, we know that he's unsure based on a note that we find in Elliot's office in chapter 2. This note talks about experiment 814, in which they try to bring rats back to life using the poppy flower. My suspicion is that this is because he was somehow able to revive his daughter inside of Poppy, a doll who we're told has the essence of poppy flower built into her hair. This is also why we find Poppy hidden in the glass case. It's so his daughter can be preserved, protected, and also studied. It's because he saw it was possible, and then he went on to repeat it, which is why he's so happy about his wonderful experiment 1006, the prototype. After nearly 200 additional experiments post poppy flowers and rats, this is where he finally cracks the code. He's brought things to life, but the prototype is too smart. It escapes and doesn't obey orders, sending the factory into chaos. This is why we hear that Huggy Wuggy is actually the perfect creation, because he's smart, but he's also obedient.
Experiment 1170, Huggy Wuggy, remains the optimal outcome due to his sufficient intelligence paired with maximum obedience.
And that, my friends, is the story of how everything started at Playtime Co. We now know that Elliot Ludwig's adopted daughter is likely the entity inside the Poppy doll, and that our overarching villain for the series is the prototype, the first successful recreation of that technology, of bringing something back to life, a toy that steals and uses the pieces and parts of other things to make itself stronger. But there's still lots more to discover here. Who or what is inside the other toys? Are they employees or are they something else? What about the mysterious death screens that we see each time we die? What are they trying to tell us? If people are inside of toys, then what about the prototype? Is it someone important, or is it just a random collection of people? And probably the biggest question of all, who are we in relation to all of this? I suspect that I may have figured out our character's name and possible role in the company, but answers to that and more will have to wait for next time, just because I have a few other things that I want to double check inside the game first. So make sure you grab pack that subscribe button to guarantee that you see our second part of Chapter 2's coverage when it comes out here in a week or two. And until then, remember, it's all
Just a theory.
a game theory. Thanks for watching.